So my name is Parker. I presented the idea that I'm going to make chess in JavaScript and HTML. So we're going to need to npm install. It should install everything from the JSON files here. See, I've got that. And these are the things that we're using right here. And now we're going to go over the code a little bit. So as we're requiring the JS document to use this for our server, because our server is running and managing everything. And then we have, the joining function, how we're getting people in there, making sure our rooms aren't too full, because we're only handling 2 players at a time. So that's what basically this part of the code does. And then we're going to, handle moves. This is all commented. So basically, I took chess code from this YouTube video, which I'll link into the Word document I share. I took this YouTube video that was explaining how to make JavaScript chess. And so I ripped that pretty much, copied it almost word for word, added my own comments for my own clarity of mind so I could use it later. And then once I did that, I had to do all the server stuff on my own because the person in the video was doing a different type of server. So I had to rework all of that. I'm kind of just sliding through the code here, the HTML document, all of our scripts, what we're using, how we're doing the players. I go into the client side here, kind of just overviewing that. And so really what I did is I just worked on the client, the server, and making sure the HTML was to my liking. Because the majority of the actual chess and getting chess to work was done by the person that I copied from the YouTube video. Just because I was kind of lost. I've never coded in JavaScript or HTML before, so I had to learn somehow. So I just watched the YouTube videos. It's like a 13-part YouTube series, and I just went every single part, wrote it all out. It took a long time. There are some features from this that aren't being used in the actual code itself when we're actually running the game. That's because it was a problem to try and implement. I was going to try and do so players could reconnect. It causes issues every time, so I kind of left the code in there, but I never got it to work. I think I'm close, but it's just not working as of now. I wanted to implement a resign button, but it's just not in the code as of right now. Besides, it's ready to be implemented on JavaScript side, but HTML side, I'm still a little bit confused on how to get that to work. So I have to go back and try and fix that at some point at a later date. But currently, the code will work for a game. So once I'm done looking over all the code here, we'll then get into the actual game running itself. All right, so in order to run our server, we're using node.js, and that's in the README file. So we just do node in the server. The server handles everything. It's listening on port 3000, so type in a name, and you can see it's waiting, so it's actively waiting. And I'll go back over what the server sees after we run a game. So now once another person connects, we do a countdown, and we have chess, okay? It auto swaps the sides. We have chess notation that will appear here. I'm just showing that the chess code of the base chess itself is working. Wanted to show you the inspection so you can see kind of how it's working. HTML, the board is just HTML. CSS right here, we can edit those things on the fly, all that type of stuff. And so this was really cool for me when I was kind of deving, because in order to kind of figure out what settings I wanted, I just kind of would go to the HTML on the side here, and I could also do the CSS. And so it just works. We get our moves here in the actual notation. In the code itself, the person that did it allowed you to input the fin notation, stuff like that, and the PGN. Now, why it does still track all that information per game, I do not have it implemented where you can input that, simply because it was just extra work that I was just trying to get this to work, bare bones, pretty much. we go. So it displays that. It should disconnect both users. It only pops up on one for some reason, maybe because that was the one I was active in. But usually it does pop up for both. And then when they reload, it just takes them back to this home page. Otherwise, so make it a little bit bigger. So we see that they connect, and then we see the moves that they make, and it tells us who made the move, a couple of information about the move, the piece, the color, all that stuff. And then we see that they disconnect, and then we clean the game, so that way it's ready. It completely swipes all that data because it's being saved in an array, so we have to get rid of that data. So during this project, I learned a lot. One, never coded in JavaScript or HTML before. A very, very big difference from C++, C#, C, Python even. They are just completely different languages. How functions work, how variables work. It's so different. It's was honestly very confusing to start working in. So the tutorial that I watched, the 13-part tutorial, really helped me kind of figure out how that works, right? I had a lot of issues with getting the images to work, which is all these purple documents. These are the images there. And I had a lot of trouble getting those to be implemented correctly. Took me a while, but I did figure it out. It took me about 2 hours of debugging. I found out that because the way that I was using path in the server, it was actually looking for a different file folder for the images. So I had to, in my HTML document, I referenced them directly, which could have worked if I didn't do the express path, but I was already doing the express path on the server, so that way the server had direct access instead of the HTML just pushing that directly. So I went ahead and removed the public tagline from those HTML documents. So then that allowed me to just have the images appear, and they loaded fine. A couple issues that I did have was getting server to hold players. So that was one of the main reasons why I had to kind of not use the reconnect feature for right now. So while it still is majorly in the code, I had to kind of unimplement it because when I was using the server function to try and reconnect, what it actually ended up doing was saving the last player and their information, even if I completely shut down the server. And then anytime I opened the server again, it would load up that previous player trying to reconnect them. But that's a problem because that means that we have a player that's not actually there. I tried working it out. I couldn't get it to work, so I ended up just having to get rid of it. They connect. It shows us their socket. So that's actually the socket from socket.io. And it connects them via their socket. Then another issue that I found was quite hard is generally just learning a new language. HTML and CSS wasn't too difficult. Definitely a learning curve, like divs, p tags, those type of things. But when we got to the CSS, that wasn't that bad. It kind of made sense that we're kind of pulling those names that we did, and you can give those titles, and it kind of just creates this big old tree of CSS and all that stuff. So for the server stuff was a lot harder to figure out. So in the YouTube videos, this guy uses a different sort of socket manager. So he uses WebSocket. And I already kind of looked at YouTube videos before this, kind of deciding what I want to do for the project. And that's when I decided to go with socket.io. It seems simpler to implement. Socket.io themselves, if you look up tutorials on how to learn Socket.io, they have good implementation for basic starting up a server, for putting stuff forward, stuff like that. So it actually was quite simple once I started doing it. I will say that it was kind of a struggle at first because while Node.js will automatically run a server for you with Node.js themselves, since we're doing a socket separately, I kind of had to work around, okay, am I doing this with Node.js or am I doing this with Socket? And I ended up just going fully with Socket. Overall, I think I learned a lot. Definitely that I enjoy a more rigid coding style. So C++, C Sharp, C, those type of things where data management is very precise. You have to do set variables and stuff like that. That's the type of stuff I enjoy. I did love this project. It took a lot of time. I was expecting to maybe spend 2 to 3 weeks at it and kind of have a finished project. And obviously, I spent that time and I still didn't have everything working that I wanted to. And it's pretty buggy because if you reload the page, it doesn't work and stuff like that. So there's a lot of issues with it that I wish I could fix. But for now, it's just working. And so that's what I have.